If you're watching this video on how to get started in multifamily real estate, you're about to learn how you can finally not have to work for somebody and not have a job anymore and live off the income off your properties. This is how most investors in multifamily real estate become financially free and are no longer tied to having to get up in the morning and go to a job, but rather go to the bank and collect their rents. You want to know where to find multifamily real estate? We're going to give you some websites right here, right now. And you're also going to learn 3 different ways that you can invest quickly in multifamily real estate, as well as some of the terms and things you need to know in order to be an investor. Hi, I'm Paul Maguire, and I'm here to show you step by step how to invest in multifamily real estate. And here we go. Investing in multifamily real estate for me has been the key to financial freedom, and for you maybe as well. There's several different ways, and we're going to talk about 3 right now. Of course, you've all heard of investing in REITs, which buy multifamily real estate. Most of you have heard about that. That's almost like a stock. That's not what we're going to talk so much about here. We're going to talk about you directly investing in multifamily real estate. So the second way to invest in multifamily real estate is for you to go out and buy a 2 to 4 unit property. If you decide to live in one of those units, you could get an FHA loan for as little as 3.5% down, as long as you qualify. Now, the qualifying, you'll talk to your real estate mortgage broker or you'll talk to the bank and they will show you what you need to do that. But as an owner occupant, you will be able to move into one of the units and rent out the others. I'm going to tell you a story at the very end about an individual who couldn't even get qualified for a $169,000 house, but did get qualified for a $328,000 fourplex, and that is how he started in multifamily. In multifamily real estate, many people's challenge is coming up with a down payment. So the second way that you can invest in multifamily real estate is by trading out of an investment home that you already have. This is called a 1031 exchange. I'm not going to go into it here, but you can see it in my other videos. In the 1031 exchange, however, you do sell a property and you take that money and trade it into a bigger property, a multifamily property. Some of you know that as monopoly. And that's what I do and many investors do, is we start with a few houses or a house. It builds equity over time, and we trade out of that house into a multifamily property, just like monopoly. Another way to get into multifamily property is to go ahead and start an investor group with friends or family or business partners. In this scenario, you would pool your money together in order to come up with a down payment. If you're not buying an owner-occupied 2 to 4 unit multifamily property, but you want to buy 5 or more units, typically you're going to need 25% down. Now, there are some lenders that'll do 20%, but their rates are a little higher. Those are often called bridge loans, or loans that are going to be shorter term for you to get the rents up and manage the property in such a way to where you increase value. And then you would do what's called a takeout loan, which is to get rid of the bridge loan or the higher interest financing to have the property finance and cash flow long term. But initially, when you want to get started in multifamily, by pooling your money together, you got to come up with about 25% on most properties, sometimes 30, sometimes 20, but 25% is common. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac typically offer loans at 25% all over the country. Talk to your real estate mortgage broker who specializes in Fannie and Freddie products, and you will see the different ways that you can go ahead and get loans for multifamily. Another way to buy multifamily property or to get into multifamily property is to find deals and bird dog or bring in an investor. Either join them as an investor or get paid for bringing them the deal. Now, I would recommend that you join them as an investor. Maybe they have more horsepower in terms of borrowing, maybe they have the experience, maybe they know how to manage multifamily property, but this is a way for you to get your foot in the door and learn. Also, having a partner in multifamily, you will have someone who can mentor you and help you in understanding some of the different terms that we've covered in other videos, such as net operating income, which is the income minus the expenses equals the net operating income. That's important in determining the value of the property and how much you should pay. Another thing that's important is what is the cap rate? Cap rates are basically a way that value is determined. And so as in any industry, there's some terminology that you will need to learn. In multifamily, just like in any other industry, whether I was a nurse or a plumber or a roofer, there's certain terms that go with that industry. In owning multifamily property, there's terms as well. One of them is debt service coverage. Debt service coverage means having enough money to cover the debt. There's a ratio that the banks use. Your mortgage broker will explain that to you, but basically it's usually between 1.1 and 1.3 in terms of debt service coverage. So if you have a $1,000 payment, you need $1,200 to $1,300 in income after expenses to cover that. In this business of multifamily, which you can definitely do, and a lot of people do. I started out with a condo and I moved my way into multifamily years after buying homes, fixing them, selling them, or buying homes and renting them and building that appreciation over time. I began to trade into multifamily. And I'm about to tell you a story right here, right now. But before I do that, you got to subscribe, my friend. I can't help you unless you help yourself, right? So make sure you subscribe so on a regular basis you can get this information and I can help you. If you like it, give me a like. If you want to get an alert so you get notified when we do a new video. We do videos every day, 5 days a week. So let's talk about where to find these multifamily properties. It's hard to invest in multifamily properties if you don't know where they are. So I'm going to give you a couple websites that you can use right now and go ahead and use these to go ahead and look for properties in your area. The first one is called apartments.com. Apartments.com is a list of multifamily properties all over the country. It's basically a free service initially unless you want to get into all the details of something you want to buy, and it's a nominal fee to become a member. Having that information will show you apartment buildings all around the country that you can look to invest in. I recommend that you invest locally, not far away. If you live in Nashville, don't invest in Oregon, okay? It's too far away. It's too difficult. Try to stay within a couple hours of where you live, and certainly within a couple hours of flying time is fine, but don't get too far away. The next website you can go to that I use regularly as well is LoopNet. LoopNet is a list of multifamily and other properties. So in the filter, you would put residential income or multifamily properties. You would put both, and then you would go ahead and you would see everything in a particular area. Recently, I bought a number of properties off of LoopNet. One of them is up in Northern California. And what I did was I searched all of California for all the different properties, and I looked for price per unit that was low and affordable so I could get more units for the least amount of down payment and money. In other words, I want to get as many units as possible because over time, as rents go up $20, $40, $60, $80, I'm going to see the value of that property take bigger jumps than a smaller property. You're going to start small, okay? You got to learn the business. Patience is the key to real estate. So here's the story of somebody who I helped start small. They were trying to buy a property for $169,000 and they asked me to go look at it. I went and looked at it. They had 2 little kids, and right behind the property was a big old power grid where the kids would almost be able to walk over there. High power, dangerous, bars in the windows. I go, what are you doing? Okay, do not buy this. They couldn't buy it anyway because they couldn't get qualified. So enter Paul Maguire, and I say, look, here's this 4-plex I remodeled. Why don't you buy this? This would be a good long-term property for you. His wife said to me exactly this: how can we qualify for a $330,000 4-plex when we couldn't qualify for a $169,000 house? And the answer is this: 75% of the rents from the other 3 units are given to the borrower, you, as income. So if the other units were rented for, say, $1,000 a piece, the bank is going to give you $750 for 3 of those units. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 50 is 150. So $2,250 a month. That's $2,250 a month in income that couple had to buy the 4-plex moving into one of the units that allowed them to qualify for a larger loan because they had additional income other than his job and her job that allowed them to get into that property. See what I mean? So that's how they got started in multifamily property. Years later, they moved out of the property, rented the fourth unit, and recently sold the property because they're moving out of state for over $100,000 in profit in about 4 years. They put how much down? 3.5% down, a little over $10,000 down. They got into the property, they owned the property, they sold it and made over $100,000. You do the math, but $10,000 to $100,000 over a few years plus the cash flow, not bad. And that, my friends, is why you want to eventually get into investing in multifamily real estate and why you're on the right video. I'll see you in the next video where I talk about either cap rates or management companies and what they're supposed to be doing. Keep watching, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video.